Great-grandfather's farm is still standing, but it isn't the same. The barn is torn down and the fences are gone, and the Illinois wind blows the topsoil away every spring. Secret gardens of the heart, where the old stay young forever. I see them shining through the night, through the ice and snow of winter.
The year is 1932 on our 172-acre farm on 71st Street, 3 miles south of Lisle, Illinois. That's my father, Carl Nadelhoffer, my mother, Harriet, and brother, Carleton. Father's sister, Corinne, and her husband, John, his sister, Marie, and his sister, Dr. Lou Wehrli Nadelhoffer, walking hand in hand with her new husband, Dr. Owen Rowe O'Neill, that raconteur of the first water from South Africa. My name is Herb Nadelhoffer. This is a short memory of a farm, some black acres that just aren't there any longer.
I still see the ghosts of the people I knew long ago. Inside the old kitchen they bend and they sigh. My life passed them up and the world in its way passed them by. Secret gardens of the heart, where the old stay young forever.
If you have mares you wish to breed, my stallion surely takes the lead. Then come and see a pretty sire, which to see is to admire. From France I did this horse import, a thoroughbred of Percheron sort. His dam a fine and toppy mare, the very finest of the fair. $16 is the price for service of this horse so nice, but I ask you for no fee until a standing colt you see. In the town of Lisle this horse will stay, except a few days he will go away. Call and see him, 'twill do no harm. He is found in Nadelhoffer's big red barn. Well, the big red barn in the farm, the beautiful woods and creek and the cornfields would have been nothing to us without our mother and father and grandparents. Our mother worked hard to keep us relatively clean and more than well fed, read to us, played the piano for our singing, taught school, created home. Our younger sister, Carolyn, our milk pail bathing beauty, loved to read even while shelling peas. She also learned to help make hay and became a real farmhand. There was a time for dance and make-believe and cowboys too, even in the country. And why not? The farm, after all, was filled with characters. Black Jack, Fanny, and Ginger, the workhorses, Trixie the pony, Duke our police dog, and Sambo our brown Swiss bull. Of course, our no-name chickens, pigs, and turkeys that were everywhere. Our father worked the fields, milked the cows, raised alfalfa, took us to Cub baseball games, made ice cream, sold surge milking machines, and more. Created farm as his father and our great-grandfather John Nadelhoffer had done before him. Our farm was a magic place to us. This was always our scene looking east from the house, the cornfields in the distance, the milk house, and the big red barn. This inspired another painting which I found in our attic from the Carolina semi-primitive art period, 1948. Horses without harnesses, fence that were mended, not like our farm. There were other artistic horses too, Dawn and her bay son Dusk, who were accorded high rank in our family. My daughters Heather and Miley loved to decorate them, and on this sunny day wove flowers into their manes and tails. My father as a young man at Oberlin, That's John Zalop, who came over from Russia in 1916 and stayed on our farm the rest of his life. A dairy cow, my dad, and some of the dairy animals, the big dairy bull in the 30s. And this was Beulah, our wonderful Jersey house cow. Many times in the afternoon when it was time to do the milking, it was also time for Cubs baseball.
The 1-1 pitch. Fire in across his arm for a call, strike two. Babe let that one go past him also. He never took the bat off his shoulder. 1-2 on Ruth. Now Babe raises that finger again and looks out at Charlie. Ruth gets his sign from Gabby. Into the windup. Here's the 1-2 pitch. A swing. A long drive. It's toward that center field corner. That ball elects the big confines of Wrigley Field at almost the exact spot that Babe had been pointing to. Here's Ruth around second on his way toward third. As he comes into third, he thumbs his nose in the direction of the Cubs dugout. Here he is around third base heading for home.
Cows and Cubs. I did this painting of our grotesque herd in my 1945 high school art class. We had taken up dairy farming again in 1945. Our father had found a real deal on a ragtag bunch of near-death butcher cows. They had all kinds of ailments and bad attitudes. Through artificial insemination not shown here, the daughters showed a vast improvement over their mummies. Then in 1950, Dad bought Ione Cinderella III, a beautiful big 12-year-old brown Swiss cow. Dad matched her up via test tube with Rainbow Wonder, a proven sire, and we were rewarded with a wonderful brown Swiss bull we named Sambo Carliette. Sambo's daughters out of our second-generation grotesqueries milked on to become the highest-producing dairy herd on test in Illinois in 1956, and second high the following year. The sale of grade A milk was our ongoing, never-ending principal business. The farm was 170 acres with 70 acres of oak woods. Visitors always liked to watch the milking, and then Dad would hitch up a hay rack and take a hayride tour of the fields and woods. It was always a thrill to get a new piece of equipment. Our friend Bob Lyman, my brother, myself, and Cousin Rich are shown on our new John Deere tractor in 1952. Farming seemed to us to be very interesting, full of surprises, and of course, the seasons always were upon us, moving us from planting to haymaking to harvesting. The farm was the setting for our May Queen sister's wedding. The house got a new coat of paint, and of course the refrigerator, sensing overload, failed the day before. But this was par for the unplanned life in the country. Carol and Mary Jack Orman on the same porch where she, as a child, had shucked peas and read at the same time, and visited with her dollies, mother and grandmother. Cousin Rich played the wedding march. The reception seemed to go on forever, and soon the cows were bellowing to be milked. So the hayseeds separated themselves from the guests and repaired to the barn, to the relief of everyone. Subdivisions were now on the borders of the farm, and soon the quadrennial reassessment would raise taxes from $3 per acre to $30. Mother died in 1963, and Dad followed in 1969. Tax and mortgage obligations, among others, caused a turnover of the farm to urban use. The black dirt was stripped away to reach the clay, the proper bearing material for footings and foundation walls, houses, streets, sewers, lights, and water mains. The oak woods are now a part of the Woodridge Park District, and the low areas east of the milk house have become Lakes Harriet and Carleton. Our hayfields of brome grass, alfalfa, and ladino clover are gone. The Osage orange and oak fence posts and barbed wire that kept our cows at home are gone, and the old farmstead is coming down. It was August 16th, 1991. My name's Herb Nadelhoffer, and this is my brother Carleton, and this is the place that we grew up.
This house that you're looking at behind us was an Aladdin house made by Sears Roebuck and Company, and it was a pre-cut house. And our grandparents built this house in 1917. This farmstead here where we're standing right now has been used by 5 generations of Nadelhoffers. The first Nadelhoffer came to this country from Alsace-Lorraine in 1856. and they farmed the Slate Farm in Naperville, where St. Peter and Paul Church is presently located, in North Central College. And in 1873 they moved out to this farmstead, and in 1874 they built the barn, which you'll see later.
When we were growing up, we could stand here in the front porch and look off to the east here, and we could see all the way across the open fields. And now there's Lake Harriet out there and Lake Carleton, named after our father and mother, and the Woodridge Center development. So it's no longer a farm. There's just a little over 4 acres left here in the old farmstead. I remember the day Carleton and I were feeding rabbits in the corn crib, and we heard screaming out in front of the house on the driveway. Our big Holstein bull, Pete, had bucked John Nadelhoffer down and was rolling him down the driveway. Carleton and I dashed out of the corn crib, past the silos, and up into the field where our father was planting corn with big Blackjack and Fanny. Dad unhitched Blackjack, jumped up on him, and galloped right down out of the field, right past here with traces flying in the dust. He rode the horse right against the bull and pushed him away from John, who suffered some cracked ribs and had to go to the hospital. Those big dairy bulls were scary and dangerous, and the stuff of nightmares.
Oh gosh.
There's not a lot of sag in it, is there?
So a lot of structures you can hit all 4 corners and they just fall within themselves.
If you can see the corner there that the caterpillar is working on, we used to sneak down the stairs and look around the corner when our folks were having a party downstairs. Remember that, Herb?
That's Mother's last wallpaper choice there, too, you see.
Well, we used to sneak out the top story there on the 2nd floor, down the porch roof, and then to jump over the tree and get out, and that way we'd avoid taking naps. Yeah, our folks thought they were taking a nap, but we didn't sneak out. Oh,
just out here remembering some of the lives that used to go on here.
I would say that the house is the center of all of family activity, because frequently in the summer, friends or relatives would come out from the city to visit us in the summer, and we'd always have a big supper for anybody that showed up. And frequently they would come down and help us with the milking, carry milk to the milk house, go to the garden and pick some produce, and we'd have a nice big family supper with whoever showed up on the Sunday. So the house was always the center of activity. People were constantly stopping by. It was open house all the time. Mother and Father liked to have people around and visitors, and they felt comfortable. And so there was always something going on in and around the house. It was a fun place to be.
This is the barn hill going right up here, and that's where the barn used to be. This is the stone foundation down here and back, and the big barn door here and a pulley, and we used to have to drive the tractor back and forth, or the team of horses back and forth, to unload the hay. And this is where our sister Carolyn often came in. My brother and I would be up in the barn unloading the hay and doing that, and Carolyn would be driving the tractor back and forth on the hay rope. I guess typically we would have 20 to 24 milk cows and 10 to 12 young heifers in there.
There'd be horse stalls for
2
horses.
or 3 bulls and 2 to 3 horses. And they were all housed in the lower level down below.
We also had grain bins up there along with the hay. There's a bin for oats, there's a bin for wheat, and there was a bin that we ground feed for the cattle in.
Right.
So that was a very active area up there, and it was a lot of fun to play in. As youngsters, we were constantly climbing around up and down and through the barn. You're now looking at the east side of the old dairy barn and the Nadelhoffer property, and you can see the walls here. This first door opening is where the horses used to go into the horse stalls. Then the next door opening was into the cattle area. And this is where the 24 cows were milked twice a day for many years. And what you do is you'd milk the cows in the barn there, and then you'd carry the milk in pails out to a milk house, which is right
here where these logs are. You want to switch to it?
Where you can...
This essentially is the old milk tank right here, and there was a little milk house here, and the old well is there too. So the milk was cooled to 55 degrees by the water from the well. And that's where we'd wash up the surge milking machines and all the pails and milk cans. And then there used to be a little concrete apron here, and we'd come out in the morning, or Franklin Wehrli or Charlie Miller would come out here and lift the milk up and put it in the back of the truck, and they'd drive right out to 71st Street and would go to the Golden Guernsey Farm in Hinsdale.
Now, to get an idea of how much milk was carried here and how much work was involved, one year my dad's average production was 13,000 pounds per cow times 24 cows. So you can just imagine how many trips there were back and forth with pails of milk to put it in, to have it cooled and then picked up later on. There's a lot of heavy labor involved in that.
One story I remember about filling silo here, a friend of ours, Murray Palmer, was a big tall kid, and he was at the top of the silo when we were filling it. And we had a watermelon down here at the bottom, and he stuck his head out the top, and he said he wanted some, so we took a big half a watermelon and we just threw it into the grinder, and it blew it up to him. And then, of course, like young guys, we all laugh our heads off down at the bottom.
This was a beehive of activity, and many times when our friends would come out on, say, a Sunday to visit, they'd be sitting on a bale of straw or a bale of hay along the side of the barn here, talking with my dad and ourselves, and just visiting. And we used to have a big garden behind us out here. Now, if you can see the tops of the silos up there.
Yeah, it came down to half a day, and it went up in over 100 years to put it up and maintain it and pay the mortgage. The farmstead looks strange now without our house and barn, our principal place of business, our Aladdin house on the hill. The view to the east is now filled with lakes, streets, and homes. Whenever I drive around our farmstead and nearby areas, I always look for remaining evidence that spots a neighbor's exact farmstead. Generally, big trees that were left by the developer. I still know where the Viles lived, the Abbotts, the Dahlmeyers, Hank and Arnie Fallhaber, Charlie Miller's place, Dickie's place, and the Kuhls. I think of them as I go by. The big oak trees still shade Oak Cottage at the Green farmstead on Hobson Road, and their big red barn is still standing. The Woodridge Area Historic Society and the DuPage County Forest Preserve are working together to preserve this farmstead and give it a new use. With these thoughts in mind, I felt we ought to visit the last dairy farmer in DuPage County before he too is gone. Okay, June, we're catching you right in the middle of milking. And this is June Landor. And you've been farming here how many years now?
We moved on here in 47, I believe, 1947.
In 47. And you're probably the last farmer around this part, at least, who's farming, aren't you, or dairying?
Dairying, yeah, I'm the last one in the county. My son and I.
Jeff? Your son, Jeff. And where does the milk go?
It goes to Peoria, Morning Glory Farms.
Peoria, Illinois?
Yeah.
So it gets picked up in a tanker?
Yeah. Yep. Every other day. We have to be able to hold it every other day.
And you're milking 39...
39.
39 Holsteins. And how many acres does it take to support them, Junie?
About 120, I would say.
We have cows that are producing less fat.
Yeah, they're not too concerned about that high fat anymore, like they, for years and years and years they had us breeding for production and butter fat.
Right.
And now the butter fat, just getting to be doing anything.
So do you get a premium for butter fat now or not?
Yeah, we still do. Yeah, they're still paying you a premium, but it's cut way down, like probably half as much now as what it was here just a few years ago.
Now, what do you think about the future of farming? Are we running out of black soil around here, or agricultural land? What do you think?
Around here, we definitely
Around
are.
here we are. But if Jeff doesn't want to keep on milking, then you'll...
Oh, the cows would go, no question about it. It's a very demanding, let's face it, it's 7 days a week, and probably a minimum of 10 hours a day.
Yeah. Tell me what your ration is that you're feeding them. I mean, they all got big bellies. We know that, so they eat a lot. But
yeah, well, basically it's a corn, oats, ground feed, and then we hand feed protein, mineral, vitamins, and salt. We top dress that.
And then they have hay on top of that?
They get hay and corn silage.
As much as they can eat?
They get a shovel full of silage, in the morning and in late afternoon. And then the hay as much as they'll eat.
You're right.
And good hay, which is a scarce item.
Yeah. Now, where do you get your hay?
Well, we used to raise all our own hay, but this year, due to the drought last year, we got caught. And we've been buying hay for about, 2.5 months now. And that hurts.
Yeah, now what's that running a ton?
$135 a ton.
$135 a ton.
They're all different ages, anywhere from 2 years old, which we like to have our heifers milking their first time at 2 years, and up to about 10 years.
Oh. And then what happens to them?
Well, they'll probably, when they're no longer economical for us to milk, they'll be, shipped to the packing. And probably McDonald's. They're one of the biggest buyers of butcher cows. Yeah. Traffic, in itself is just a hassle trying to get across the road. And I had hay across the road, and boy, you try coming back and forth across the road. It's there's certain times of the day it's actually impossible.
Right.
And it seems like the people that are traveling, and I would hazard to guess there's a good bunch of them just going to the shopping center, but boy, they're in a hurry. I mean, they have no time to waste.
A wooden Holstein cow by the door will shortly be all that is left of the dairyman's way of life in this county. With plastics sprouting in the fields, we'll head out to see another neighbor of ours, Paulie Miller.
Well, I'm just a farmer from Naperville area. I farmed most of my life. I don't know, I used to help Herb Nadelhoffer's dad many years ago. Do some of his plowing, his hay baling and stuff like that. I didn't help milk the cows though. He did that himself. But I've been around farming in the Naperville area for since 1955, I think, my own. But I farmed when I was a kid, lived south of Naperville. So I don't know, outside of that, I'm just an old hay shaker.
Well, how come you're still farming?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's in my blood, huh? Farm a little bit. I'm kind of cutting back. I farm maybe about 300 acres right now.
How much did you used to farm?
Well, I farmed as high as about 1,500 or 1,600 acres. Yeah. That's when Naperville was pretty small.
So you had the farm to support you all your life. I mean, you had to work at the farm.
Right, yeah. That's my income totally from farming.
And how many kids did you raise then?
I raised 8 kids, my wife and I.
Was Aggie any help?
Oh, yeah. She did the cooking and the washing.
And you were able to get all the kids married off so that you don't have to support them?
Well, no, we've got about half married off. Half still running around trying to find herself. No, I don't know. They're all around this area, almost all the kids.
Are some of them still farming?
No, we don't have any of them farming. They all went to town, got a job. Got that higher money. Bigger money, I guess. But they're still in this area.
Paulie, what do you think about, is there enough farmland around, or what do you think about the disappearance of farmland and agriculture?
Well, I think in this particular area, it's pretty well going out pretty fast. They're building a lot of houses each year, and in the future there won't be any farms here. They have to go further west or south or someplace, but not in this particular area. Oh, I think it's a little different atmosphere altogether than it used to be. I don't know.
Yeah, but, I don't.
This is like called progress, isn't it?
Well, people still need places to live, and I understand that.
But there's a lot of land there. A lot of land. You take a ride out west, there's still a lot of farmland. We're not running out of farmland, but you think so while you're living here. But there's still a lot of agricultural land.
But it sure is good, nice to see the good black dirt.
Oh, yes, it is. It's. I've farmed around Crest Creek area, Naperville, as that grew up, and each year they'd build more houses, and I was farming most of that land, so I'd have less land each year. And the neighbors would come in, the city neighbors, and they'd come out and look back at the yard and say, "Boy, I wish nobody would build here because it's so beautiful. You see the farmland and all the corn." I always tell them, "Yeah, that's what I said before you people came too, but you keep moving in." But nobody seems to want to grow anymore to live on the edge of town. They like to see the country, but they don't want nobody else to build. He was a great man. I always admired him. He was a nice guy to work for. Always had candy bars to give you.
Yes, farming without neighbors like Paulie Miller, the Greens, Charlie and Rose Miller, the Abbotts, Viles, Dahlmeyers, Coleyes, Arnie Fallhaber, our pal Bob Lyman, and our closest neighbors, the Finkbeiners, Catherine and Carl and their kids, Ann, Gail, Carly, and John. Farming without them would have been pretty thin, like drinking skim milk.
Herb's dad was a little handicapped, and he was getting older, and he kind of needed the help. But he was such a generous guy. John went down there Carl went down just to help him out because he was old enough that he could do things like that. And so he was helping carry milk and this and that and the other, and just felt like he was doing a great job. And Carly knew he was considering college, so he really paid him well, and that was just a great treat. Johnny came along later on, and he was 5 years younger, and did the same things with Carly. They worshipped Carly, both fellas did, and they remember him with a great deal of joy. I had known Carly and Harriet, and liked them very much. I knew the boys growing up. Herb and Carleton used to come over to my house to get eggs, to take them home. So I saw those boys growing up too. I still never can go by a big pile of beautiful black dirt. I just saw one a couple days ago. Just beautiful black dirt that's being piled up will be reused. Realizing that it's taking that black dirt off that very productive soil. I always have a pang about that every time I see it.
The glaciers receded for the most part 12,000 years ago. The prairies appeared and created this rich black soil, we are told, the richest in the world. Just doesn't seem correct to pile it up just because we can, but then it doesn't seem right either to waste it. Great-grandfather John Nadelhoffer, 137 years ago, found this soil spread across the land and earned his living from it. Today, the Fermilab buffalo, even with tags in their ears, help balance this urban scene. Soon, the remaining farmers will have tags in their ears and then move west. And I'm sure if the buffalo could get out, they'd be gone too. Buffaloes, farmers, this old farmstead is on the edge too. Childhood magic will be found in other scenes and filled with different characters. But these black acres are gone.
They're growing houses in the fields between the towns, and the Starlight Drive-In movie's closing down. The road is gone to the way it was before. Now the spaces won't be spaces anymore. 2 more farms were broken by the drought. First the Wagners, now the Fullers pulling out. Developers paid better than the corn, but this was not the place where they were born. There's houses in the fields, no prayers for steady rain this year. Houses in the fields, there's houses in the fields. The last few farms are growing out of here. At first he wouldn't sell, and then he would. Now there'll be children playing where the silo stood. The word came from the marrow of his bones. It was the last sure way to pay off all the loans. The new streets will be named for kings and queens, and a ransom will be paid for every castle's dreams. The model sign is crested with a lion, and the farmers, they will have enough to die on. There's houses in the fields, no prayers for steady rain this year. Houses in the fields, there's houses in the fields. The last few farms are growing out of here. Well, I guess no one should be afraid of change. But tell me, why is there a fence for every open range? It's a sign I'm getting on in years, when nothing new is welcome to these eyes and ears. There's houses in the fields, no prayers for steady rain this year. Houses in the fields, there's houses in the fields. The last few farms are growing out of here. They're growing houses in the fields between the towns, and the Starlight Drive-In movie is all closed down. The road is gone to the way it was before. Now the spaces won't be spaces anymore. Now the spaces won't be spaces anymore.
I drive by the strangers and wish they could see what I see. A tangle of summer birds flying in sunlight, a forest of lilies, an orchard of apricot trees. Secret gardens of the heart, where the flowers bloom forever. I see them shining through the night in the ice and snow of winter. But most of all, it is me that has changed, and yet still I'm the same. That's me at the weddings, that's me at the graves, dressed like the people who once looked so grown up and brave. I look in the mirror through the eyes of a child that was me. I see the willows bending, the season is spring, and the silver blue sailing birds fly with the sun on their wings. Secret gardens of the heart, where the seasons change forever. I see it shining through the night in the ice and snow of winter.